business news. Stephen Carroll is with me in the studio once again. Hi there, Stephen. Obviously, the violence in Egypt, we've seen a lot of it in the news. It's also having a big impact, continuing impact on the country's economy.
Yeah, that's right. Shares on the country's main stock index, the EGX 30, closed down 3.87% in trading on Sunday. It's just over an hour to the start of trading in Cairo, but it's not expected to be a much better day. As we've been hearing, the EU is said to be considering stopping this €5 billion package of grants and loans to Egypt over the ongoing violence. This as the IMF also has stalled talks over a loan to the country. Badly needed loan, it has to be said. Luke Shrego has been taking a look at the economic effects this violence has had on Egypt.
Tension lingered in Cairo's streets as Egypt tried to begin its working week on Sunday. Despite a curfew cutting back its working hours, analysts were upbeat over the stock exchange's resilience in the face of days of violent unrest.
I think Egyptian investors are seeing an opportunity to buy stocks due to the drop in prices, but international and Arab investor confidence is dropping as they're selling their stocks because of the insecurity and violence that is gripping the streets of the country.
However, Egypt's economy has taken a beating since the revolution 2 years ago, seeing growth cut from over 5% to just 2%. It's also yet to see a nearly $5 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund approved, not to mention losses in a vital tourist sector worth some 11% of the economy.
In terms of tourists, work or business, there's nothing for us here, nothing.
Many of the tourist attractions around capital Cairo are deserted, though some tourists have continued to arrive a little further afield.
Just at check-in, a couple right in front of us pulled out of the trip. We were very close to doing the same thing, but then we came anyway.
I feel okay being here because it's very peaceful. But it's tough to think that in this very country just 500 kilometers away, people are being shot in the streets.
Many countries in Europe have issued travel warnings for people headed to Egypt, and several tour operators have cancelled upcoming trips.
Let's take a look at how the markets started the week here in Europe. A fairly flat opener, it has to be said, on the European markets. London's FTSE 100 leading the very slight gains there, up just 0.1%. News from Japan that the country's trade deficit, that's the difference between the value of its imports and exports, it almost doubled, didn't impact trading on the Nikkei too heavily. It closed up almost 0.8%. You can see the Shanghai Composite there is in the green as well. A computer error has been blamed for a sudden jump in the value of the Shanghai Composite on Friday. It went up 5.6% in just a matter of seconds because of a computer glitch at the Everbright financial trading firm.
I bet someone got in trouble for that.
Exactly. It was actually originally thought it was human error, but it's turned out now as a computer glitch. Chinese financial regulators are investigating the incident. From the stock markets to the currency markets now, news that the Indian rupee has hit a record low against the US dollar. In early trading, it fell to 62.35 rupees to the dollar, beating last week's low, and this is over fears that a recovery in the US economy may see India's economy suffer some of that capital shifting away. The currency has fallen nearly 14% in trading against the dollar so far this year.
OK, Stephen, now we're going to go to another inquiry at the American investment bank, JPMorgan Chase.
Yeah, US regulators are looking into the hiring policy at the bank's Hong Kong branch to see whether the bank employed the children of senior Chinese officials to try and help boost its business. America's Securities and Exchange Commission is investigating the bank's employment of the son of the chairman of financial firm Everbright and the daughter of a senior railway official. The New York Times reports that JPMorgan won several key contracts after these hires. The company says it's cooperating with the investigation, but this latest inquiry comes after two JPMorgan traders were charged over the London whale trading scandal, which cost the bank some $6 billion.
And also got it some negative publicity, which has not gone away there for JPMorgan Chase. All right, coming back to this side of the Atlantic, here in France, government ministers are back at work and they're looking ahead to what their plans for France are, way up to 2025. 2025.
Yeah, the long-term view for those ministers coming back from, that has to be said, they're shorter than usual summer holidays before the parliamentary term restarts in September. This meeting is to look at the challenges France will face over the next 10 years. But more immediately, they're going to be looking at the controversial issue of pension reform, high on the agenda. This is something that's very controversial here in France. Protests already planned over plans that would see workers work longer to get their maximum pension. They'll also be discussing the budget deficit and efforts to try and raise €6 billion in new taxes in the 2014 budget.
Okay, and we're staying with a very French story here on this business update. The wine made in France is, of course, known all over the world. But now French vineyards are attracting attention for a different kind of reason, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. France's anti-money laundering watchdog says it's worried about the number of vineyards being bought by Russian and Chinese investors. Now, TRACFIN has warned that because of the complex structure of holding companies that's being used by these investors to buy vineyards, it's very difficult to trace the money trail to know exactly where the money is going. The agency says it's relieved alerts about suspicious purchases by investors from Russia, China and the Ukraine, and says it'll be stepping up its monitoring of the sector.
Okay, so you've got to be careful, even with wine these days. All right, thanks very much. Stephen Carroll there with a business update. Time now to get a look at the international papers. It's in our International Press Review.